was something. It changed my life completely. And I've had headaches, a lot of stuff to overcome. And I've had balance issues. I've had stuff since then. And while I was very blessed, it could have been so much worse. It could have been much worse. There have been days where I've just thought of, why don't I just quit? Why isn't that moment there that I just quit? And and there's a lot of people that quit over much less things. But I didn't do it. And I didn't quit because it was, it just wasn't in me. I returned back to work about 3 weeks after the surgery, and I really probably shouldn't have returned that quick, and did what I had to do. And Keith, that's what what a lot of people, everybody has to overcome something. Everybody.
That's true. And what brought all that about? What brought that brain injury? Was it like an accident, or did something that's happen?
No. I started having headaches. My wife forced me to go to the doctor, and we were blessed to have found a good doctor. And all of a sudden, they found an MRI, found a huge aneurysm. Within a week, I had surgery. It was not an accident. It was just, it was an accident of fate.
Do you think you were given a second chance, or do you think that was like a wake-up call?
Yes, and yes. It's, I think we're all given. I think the good Lord gives us a certain time. I've always sort of felt this, that we're given a certain time. And we have to go and do what's necessary to to fulfill our mission of service, whatever that may be. And everybody has to overcome things. You think of Heath Ledger, great actor. Here's a guy, good-looking guy. He has the world by the tail. We got a tiger by the tail. And he's a drug addict, he's depressed, he's got all this stuff that you and I could never understand. The guy's dead he's in his 20s, he's dead. And why would this guy, what's the deal there? An outward success, outwards looking, he's got all the money in the world, good-looking guy, he's got a great movie career, he's got all this stuff going for him, but inside the guy's he's a miserable cripple, and he's emotionally crippled. He may not look it, he may not have a limp, he may not be missing something, he may not be something that you look at and say, wow, that guy has a disability. But you get underneath, you get between those ears, and that guy is a mess. And we look at all these people, and we sit there and we make all these judgments. We see somebody who may have a challenge. They may have a physical challenge. They may have a friend of mine who was born with a disability, and it's a very obvious disability when you look at him. This guy's done so many great things. Most people who have great physical ability haven't done all the stuff this guy's done. And so if this guy's done all these great things, and this guy, has a great family, has a great, great marriage, all these different things that he's done, all this great stuff. And there are a lot of people who have been born that way, who've been born with a physical deformity or physical challenge, and they don't achieve great things. Why? They shouldn't even think that way, but they do, unfortunately. It's sad.
It's true.
No reason to.
That's true. You look at small people.
Yeah, well, people who are very short or very tall. You know, it's there are people who are very, very tall. They feel like they don't fit in whatsoever. I know people who knew Andre the Giant, knew him very well, and here was a guy who felt uncomfortable wherever he was.
Well, it's hard to be when you're 7 foot, 500 pounds.
Mm-hmm. And then there are people who are 3'2", and they feel very uncomfortable wherever they go.
That's true.
You know, it's but again, it doesn't matter. It's what goes on between here and here, what goes on right in there. That's all that matters.
But what's Andre the Giant, that kind of message screws you up because how can you go through life knowing you're gonna die at age 42?
Well, he lived a very full life. I know people who knew him well, and I don't think he knew necessarily he was going to die as young as he did, but he was a man in great physical pain. He enjoyed himself. He had great friends. He was very loyal to all sorts of people around him, and there were people who loved him very much. But in many other ways, though, he was very lonely.
Right.
You know, it's he apparently has a daughter that no one knows, and she wants total privacy. And I think he was a very good father to her.
I kind of figured that he had a kid, but I would like to see Andre the Giant's grandson be a wrestler. That would be really great. Or I know there was the WWF Hall of Fame back in '94 where they inducted Andre into the Hall of Fame, but I think they should really induct him into the Hall of Fame like they do every year.
Mm-hmm. The daughter may have been there, but she's very private.
Do you know the daughter?
No. I didn't know him. I just knew people that knew him well.
Like who, if you don't mind me for asking?
I knew Nick Bockwinkel, who's still alive, who's one of the great wrestlers. I knew some of the independent wrestlers who had worked with him over the years. Some of these people who have gone on and passed away. There was a period there with WWE where I knew a lot of those guys. And I had met Brian Pillman. I knew the Destruction Crew. I knew people like, I knew X-Pac before he became, the 1, 2, 3 Kid, then X-Pac. I knew him. I was at private get-togethers with him. These were good people, very nice people. And, and I had heard several Andre stories. Anyone who had been around the business, Kenny Patera, I used to be very close with Kenny Patera, and the world's strongest man. And Kenny had told a couple of Andre stories that were just wonderful, absolutely wonderful stories. No one had a bad word about Andre the Giant. Nobody. No one ever said a mean word about him, ever, before his death or after.
That's true. I remember a story Stephanie McMahon once told where she was, I think, about 4 years old or something, 2 or 4, and Andre the Giant was over her house, and she used to sit on his lap. But like you said, I never heard any bad stories about him either.
I'll tell you an Andre the Giant story. It comes from a guy who used to work for WWE. And an independent wrestler you would not know. And this is a guy who worked for Vince McMahon, worked as a ring setup guy, and worked in a number of different things. And I've heard stories, by the way, from, I used to work in broadcasting with Jesse Ventura, and Jesse is one of Jesse's best friends is one of my best friends, and Jesse's a great guy. But here's the story: is that they were at some hotel, and I forget the city, but they were in the bar after the show at the hotel, and so Andre ordered a carafe of wine, because that's what he only ordered a carafe, and he ordered a salad, and the waitress said, "Sir, you're only going to have a salad?" Again, huge man. And she said, "Are you sure?" He goes, "That's all I want this evening is a salad." And so she takes the orders of the other wrestlers and the other crew, and I think it was about 10 guys. And as she's heading back with the order, Andre says, Miss, I've changed my mind." And she goes, "Yes, sir. What would you like?" And he said, "I want everything." And she goes, "Well, what do you mean?" "I want it all." "What do you mean all?" "I want everything from the appetizers through every entree. And I want them 5 minutes apart. And please bring me 5 carafes of the same one." And he, she literally brought by everything, and he ate it all. And that's a pretty traditional Andre the Giant story.
The one story I know about Andre, but I knew him personally, but I never got the chance. Maybe in another lifetime, maybe on the other side, I would get the chance to sit down and talk to him. I would love that. And Owen Hart, too, for that matter. But the story I remember was Andre was on an airplane, and he was wrestling with the armrests. And he asks he says, "Miss, can I have a screwdriver?" So the woman came over and gave him the drink, because she thought, a screwdriver was a drink. And he said, "What would you have done if I asked you for a Bloody Mary?" Bloody Mary.
I met Ric Flair a few times, and I'd done some work for the old AWA, and this was in the Twin Cities of Minneapolis, St. Paul, and they had done, and this is before NWA had been taken over by Ted Turner, sort of the end of the days of the Crockett's running them, and Vern Gagne running AWA, and they had done a match where they brought in Flying Brian Pillman versus Ric Flair, and I brought up Nick Bockwinkel, and Bockwinkel had introduced me backstage to Flair and to Pillman. And I forget, there were a lot of other big stars back there that night, but obviously meeting Flair and Pillman was pretty good. And this is probably about 18 months before Pillman passed away. And Flair was the real deal. He was a friendly guy and was a bright guy. Bockwinkel, who was an early in the game, second generation wrestler. We're talking about a guy who was around, who just till, well into the 80s to early 90s was still going over to Japan and doing that Legends thing where he was wrestling Lou Thesz. And Bockwinkel, I asked him about working with Flair, because really sort of Bockwinkel was sort of that generation before Flair really hit his prime. And Bockwinkel, of course, had wrestled for NWA, he had wrestled for AWA, WWE when it wasn't known as that. Then he'd been out to the West Coast, he'd been all over the place, was really one of the all-time great performers of his era of the 60s and 70s, and probably late 50s. And so, and I asked Flair about Bockwinkel about working with Flair. And he said Flair was great at what he did. And he goes, he didn't quite get the romanticism of working with Ric Flair. He said a lot of the people who understand wrestling, who appreciate wrestling, had a romanticism with working with Flair, about watching Flair work. And he said what Flair did was very, very good. He goes, but, watching like a Steamboat or watching some of the other guys was much more interesting. He goes, those guys did so much better work.
Yeah.
And because they could go and during the match they could change things up and do so many things. He goes, Flair did what Flair did. You were wrestling Flair's match, and Flair, either Flair was doing the job or he was winning. That's what was going on.
Now, for any other stars back in the day, have you worked with or had a chance to talk to Bret Hart, Owen?
Never met any of the Harts. It's obviously a fan. Obviously appreciated them. Never met any of the Harts. Never met. There's some of these guys I had never met. It was. I wish I had, but I just said that.
I got a chance to meet Bret Hart when I was about 5, and I got a chance to talk to him in 2010, and he really influenced me. He's one of my heroes. And if you watch my introduction, I use this WCW. It's funny, he hates his WCW theme song. So I was like, hey, if you're not going to use it, then I'm going to use it. So I used his WCW theme song as my introduction.
Yeah, I think the deal is with him is that I think he lost the love of wrestling when his brother died.
Right.
And, and his father, obviously one of the great trainers, Stu Hart, and could really spot, what was going on. I think, when you go out and you lose, you saw how that went down, losing a brother and how it was handled when Owen passed away. It was a terrible thing. It was, and the way it looked like it was handled, I don't know the whole story. I don't want to go into how it was handled. I just said it didn't look good. Owen was a tremendous performer. It just didn't need to go that way. Just didn't need to go that way.
And I said that I interviewed Double J Jarrett a while ago, and I told him, I hate ECW, worst federation ever. I hated the Attitude Era. That was a piece of shit year. I hated that. And there was no reason for the Blue Blazer gimmick. Okay, you wanted a superhero spoof, okay, that's fine. Run around the ring, whatever. But it's nothing entertaining about coming down, and he cut me off at that point. I said, there's nothing entertainment about coming down from the frickin' ceiling. That should be an automatic no. Absolutely not. I don't care if it's a storyline. No ceiling.
Yeah, Jeff, though, I know Jeff just a little bit. And Jeff is, he lives in denial over what's going on. He has his eye on what he thinks is he needs to go, the direction he needs to go. My mind just went blank on the name of, his announcer
JR?
And Mark, no, the other one. The announcer, not any guy who's, keep going.
Which one are we talking about?
For Jarrett.
Jim Cornette?
No, it's Jarrett had, for TNT, or TNA, his announcer for TNA.
Oh, Mike Tenay?
Keep going.
It's either Mike Tenay, Donna West, Tony Schiavone. That's really about it for announcers in TNA.
Yeah, his longtime announcer was Jerry, it'll come to me. It is somebody that I've known reasonably well. And it'll come to me in a moment. It'll come to me. Well, here's the deal: is that is Jeff Jarrett, has had something in mind that he's wanted to do. It's been in his head, and he's followed it with DNA. And I would, and it's been reasonably successful for him, and I don't argue with success. And he's not going to sit, unfortunately. And he's not one of these guys that sits and he's not a fans guy. Some of these guys are fans guys. He's not. You think he would be, but he's not. Jeff Jarrett's not a fans guy. Just isn't. And he's not a fans guy. It's not his interest.
Yeah, he even said when I mentioned TNA, he said that was a part of his life that he closed and he had to move on. And I was like, oh, well, you're going to move on to other things. But then he said, I'm going to move on to Global Force Wrestling. It's kind of like, okay, in that case, why did he leave TNA if they're only going to start another organization?
Yeah, my guess is, I don't know what the inside story was, but he was TNA. So my guess is that he wanted to do something and he was imploding it. So his business partner said, this guy's going to kill us, so let's get rid of him.
But on the other hand, maybe it's because he was working with Dixie Carter too.
Yeah, I don't know what the whole deal was. I can just tell you, I know him just enough that he's one of these guys. Here's the deal. I'm just going to tell you something. You just put this in your head. There are people in this world that can't adjust, whatever it is. They've got a road they're going to go down. It can be in sports, it can be in business, it can be whatever it is. And they can't adjust to where it is going. So an organization, whatever it is, it can be a restaurant. You can see these shows. I don't know if you ever see this thing on the Food Network.
Right.
About restaurants that are failing. And they're in there, and these are nice people. They're trying to run a restaurant, and they have things on the restaurant that's not, it's not selling. And they're yelling at each other. The people in the restaurant are yelling at each other because the food isn't selling, right? And so they bring in the expert, and he looks at it and he goes, well, the food isn't selling. No one's coming in because the food is terrible. But no, people love our food. Well, they don't love your food. They're not coming to your restaurant. Well, that's how this works. Okay? So, Jeff, I don't know what the total inside story was. I haven't buried myself into it, but I know Jeff Jarrett enough.
Right.
Jeff, is that if people weren't buying what he was selling, Jeff is one of these guys that it's either going to be his way or no way. It's done. he'll sit and scream about it until he gets his way.
That's true, but I didn't get that impression from talking to him.
That is my impression of the guy. I think he's a nice guy. I think he's a bright guy. I think he's a very good wrestler. He obviously has built an incredible career that's taken a long time. He's been very successful. But I think he's one of these guys that's just going to do this over and over. He has what he wants to do. And that just isn't going to play. It's, in New York, everyone saw what happened with Rex Ryan. Rex Ryan with the New York Jets. He was going to coach that team the way he was going to coach it. So guess what happened? Work it.
Right.
And, and he probably didn't have the right personnel, and he probably didn't have some things that didn't work his way. But, he can only do certain things. And so he had to go.
Look at Tebow. He was this big thing, and they traded Tebow to the Jets, and the Jets fucking killed him. Not rarely, but they just killed his whole career. You don't even hear anything about it anymore.
I think that that was the biggest. I think that I think the NFL with quarterbacks historically, you look at Tebow, you look at Flutie, you look at there's been a history of quarterbacks who are proven winners, that because they don't fit a certain belief of what a quarterback should be, they don't get that.
Right.
Look at Don McPherson, again, a guy from New York who played at Syracuse, runner-up for the Heisman, had a great career in Canada, and in today's world, this was in the 80s. In today's world, this guy would have been a top draft pick for the NFL. He's an African-American player. And in today's world, this guy would have been a great player in the NFL. But during the time, he would never have got, he didn't get a shot because he was quote-unquote an athletic guy. And, he moved around a lot. And the NFL wanted a guy who was going to stand in the pocket. That's the way it works.
That's true. Now, wrapping up, do you have anything you have to say to, anything you would like to say to your fans and listeners?
It's just, the thing that I always want to just bring up is this, is that everybody can do is, I think everyone needs to know, obviously, is that, you can do basically whatever you can do. You can reach your pinnacle, you can reach your peak. I've seen so many people of so many different backgrounds, so many different things. And I've seen people who have great abilities fail, and I've seen people with not the greatest abilities succeed to the highest point. I've seen college dropouts become billionaires, and Bill Gates and Mark Zuckerberg. I've seen people with college degrees do nothing. So realize that what I know is this, is that everybody can reach what they want to reach. And all they have to do is kick butt and take names and work really, really hard. And do really, really well. And the other thing is this, is that I don't believe that there are limits on what people can do. And, I didn't give up after my deal with my surgery. I don't think anyone else should. Don't give up. These people want to give up. I know there's a temptation sometimes when things don't go someone's way to give up. Don't give up. Never, ever, ever, ever give up, as Winston Churchill said. And he's right. Totally right.